Because if your gut is, you have issues in your gut, it's going to manifest in every other way. I was probably healthier than 80% of the population, and I still had parasites. That is the goal. It should not be to have perfect blood work. Your body is connected, you know, like everything is connected. It's not.
Hi, my name is Thrishi. Thank you so much for your precious time in watching this amazing conversation. I wanted to tell you real quick why I started this thing called the BioBelly Show. My best friend Ankit was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis around the peak of the pandemic. And I felt he did not know how it is to find root cause healing and how to find a long-term solution for his issues. Once I figured that out and I saw an intelligent person like him going through a vicious cycle of crippling symptoms that are changing his overall lifestyle and his relationship with food and his relationship with movement, I realized that the most important thing I can do is become a bridge to serve people with information on how it is we can bring root cause healing to the world, right? And look, with gut issues, it's so weird because the gut is the central part of our whole body, right? And so disease always starts with a small dysfunction with the gut, as far as I am learning, right? So my goal for this podcast is to speak with every single gut healer that I can, right? Whether that's a naturopath, whether that's a gastroenterologist, whether that's an IBS dietitian, whether that's a CBT expert, whether that's an EDMR specialist, whether that's a gut hypnotherapist. Basically, I want to speak with everyone who heals guts because I want to make it very accessible how it is our body works, how it is we can get long-term relief, and how it is we should optimally live for an optimized gut, thereby having an optimized health. And I really hope you enjoy this conversation. If it serves you, please like and subscribe because it does support us and show us that our dream is coming true and we're actually healing guts for a living. So without further ado, let's hop into the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to an amazing conversation at the BioBelly Show. Today's guest is someone who's built a beautiful community by making gut health simple, interesting, and easy to understand. Travis has become a go-to voice online for breaking down parasites, detoxing, digestion, and the everyday habits that can completely change how your gut feels. What I love about his work is how practical and curious he is. He studies, he experiments, and he shares what's helped him and thousands of others in a way that actually makes people pay attention. I'm super excited for this conversation because Travis brings a super fresh perspective, a ton of passion, and a true desire from the heart to heal people and make them feel better. Travis, thank you so much for being here today, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that intro. That was great.
100%, bro. Travis, I would love if I can learn a little bit more about your story, right? Those early moments that actually did shape this beautiful future you now have of healing people's guts for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I told you a little bit before we started recording, but not a lot of people know that my background is in accounting. Like, I completely different from the health space I'm in now. And I worked in public accounting. I went to school for accounting. I worked as an assistant to a financial advisor before doing accounting. And so now I'm in a completely different field. And my health journey really started when I was around 16, 17. I started getting chronic migraines. You know, and my mom took me to a lot of different doctors and there was no answer. And the answers like, oh, we're different from every doctor. Every doctor would be like, oh, like, you know, I tell them I tried to eliminate gluten, you know, and I felt like it got a little better. They're like, oh, just keep doing that. I'm like, okay, like I get like that's the answer I got. And it kind of stemmed from me being a little frustrated with the medical community, the answers I got. And then so I started doing a lot of research myself. And one book I came across off of the countless books I listened to. I was just listening to audiobooks all the time. But it was a book called The Plant Paradox by Dr. Stephen Gundry. And he was a big advocate and still is of the ketogenic diet. And I listened to it and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. And so I started a ketogenic diet and I felt amazing. Like the first month was hard. Obviously, if anybody's done a ketogenic diet, you know, if your body's constantly burning glucose and you're shifting to ketones, it is incredibly hard for if your body's not used to that. So it was a hard first month, but after that, I felt like I just, you know, I had some leeway. You know, I felt really good for a while, and I was like, wow. I remember telling myself like I will never eat another carb again, and I was strict, guys. Like I would not look at a carb. I did not eat rice or potato. The most carbs I had was literally from carrots. It was that crazy, and I did this for almost a year, and I felt amazing. But I started to plateau, and then I remember getting some tests done on my kidneys, and I noticed that my kidneys, per the doctor, what the doctor said was are under a lot of stress. And you know, if anybody knows anything about the ketogenic diet, it's a very high protein diet. It's also very diuretic, and my kidneys were under a lot of stress. And I was like, huh, like this was the answer, but it doesn't seem to be the answer anymore. And I think now what I realized what I was doing is I had a diet that worked, and then eventually I plateaued. And looking at it from an ancestral standpoint, you know, our ancestors in the winter would probably follow a very ketogenic diet. And then in the summer, you know, if they saw a bunch of berries, I can't imagine they were like, too hot, too much sugar, too much carbs, you know? So I started cycling through my diet. I went back to eating carbs and I felt amazing. Almost the same benefits I felt at the beginning of, when I started a ketogenic diet. With that said, during this time, like my migraines went from, you know, I would get them only 20% of the time to which I normally would. And so I noticed benefits, but every once in a while I'd have a, you know, debilitating migraine. And I was like, man, it's almost there. Then I started, you know, I was eating very healthy. I cleaned up my diet. I had a lot of movement. I get a lot of sunlight. I noticed I started getting some bloating, some acne, some digestive issues. I started noticing hair loss, which I attributed to stress and public accounting, you know, and all of these things. And I remember diving in and doing some, you know, some research myself, because none of the doctors, they're like, oh, you have bloating, like maybe you have a food allergy. Maybe I just wasn't happy with the answers I was getting. And so I remember listening to a bunch of different podcasts and books, and somebody brought up a parasite cleanse. And I was like, you know, that would make a lot of sense if I had it. And I thought there's a 1% chance that I had parasites. I eat a lot of sushi. That I would do a parasite cleanse. I did a parasite cleanse and I visibly saw parasites in my stool. And I remember being absolutely, like, my mind was blown. I was like, I eat healthy. I do all these things. I would say at this point, I was probably healthier than 80% of the population, maybe more, depending on, you know, at least in America. And, but I still had parasites. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I made everybody I know do a parasite cleanse. Like I was buying all these herbs and making, you know, everybody I know do. I made my parents do it. My brothers, just, my friends, roommates, like everybody's doing a parasite cleanse. I became known as that guy because I believed in it so much. And a lot of my issues went away. And from there, I started my company, Luna Lab, and we specialize in, you know, we started as a parasite cleanse, and we provided, you know, a lot of value, a lot of solutions to people who've had these same issues as me. And it blew up word of mouth and me talking about it online. It really, you know, I was shipping them out of my mom's, you know, my mom's house for a while. And it was just amazing, like how much people were benefiting from this and how much people had the same problems that I had. And, you know, from there, I started working with a lot of gut health experts, a lot of doctors. You know, with our manufacturer, I get the opportunity and the blessing to work with a lot of holistic doctors. And it's been fun to be able to go to them and be like, hey, like in my community online and in my personal community, like where people are dealing with, you know, they have parasites, we've created a solution for that. But some people have bacterial overgrowth and they create a solution for that, you know, and from a very holistic standpoint. And I get to kind of like sign off on it with, you know, some other gut health experts that I consult with. And it's been really fun, you know. And, you know, the other thing too, and we'll probably talk about this later, is another frustration I have with the medical community. And I love medical, you know, I have a lot of friends who are doctors. They're obviously very smart people, much smarter than me, to be honest, you know. But I think another thing was I had gingivitis as well. And I started dealing with some brain fog. And, like the doctors were like, oh, like you're having receding gums. You're just brushing your teeth too hard, like stuff like that, And then I started oil pulling and it went away, just examples of, I feel like that's what a lot of people, when they have these issues, we do research ourselves and we end up finding the answers. And I kind of look at myself like that. I'm my own little guinea pig and I'm just trying to find answers and listen to everybody, whether it's Western medicine, Eastern medicine. I'm, I don't like to subscribe to one camp. I like to be whatever is going to provide the solution. I'm here for. So I'm kind of my own personal guinea pig, and I share what I've experienced.
Love it. Love it. I was mentioning it before the podcast too, but you saying it again, it's like classic. It's like that story of just turning your struggle into a passion of serving others. It's not a lot of people live that life, and it's really, it's very grateful to have met you, man, because it's a beautiful story. Seriously, dude, like I feel like a lot of people, they're in those shoes, right, Travis? They might have hair loss. They might be battling with acne. They might have, like, as you said, gingivitis, and and I think the instinct that we have is finding like a short-term fix, like a Band-Aid fix to those issues, right? And I love that you had that intellect at that time to think of like that root cause, like what must be that root cause solution, right? Like what I do see a lot is, and you definitely know this better than me. It's like sometimes the same root causes, they manifest as different health conditions in your body. Like it could be the same root cause gut issue, but it's like there's different ways it's being projected into your body, whether that's hair loss, whether it's acne or just bloating. Right? If you were to go to that like 5 years ago Travis, or maybe 7 years ago Travis, with all these issues, what would you think is like a streamlined roadmap towards having a healthy gut and optimizing everything? If you were able to, if it was like your little brother, if it was like me, and I was like, Travis, help me out, man. How would you help me create like an amazing lifestyle where I am optimizing my gut health?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think first of all, I would start with this framework. And the one thing I really love about Eastern medicine, and particularly Chinese medicine, is they look at everything connected. Like when, Western medicine has done a great job at compartmentalizing things. They'll be like, oh, you have, your heart is having issues, you have cardiovascular disease. That's only in your heart. That's not happening anywhere else. It's not because, you have bacteria in your mouth or bad gut health or poor circulation. It's just kind of in your, and I'm being very specific, but what I love about Eastern medicine is they take everything, they look at everything connected, and so that's the framework I would start with, is really realize that your body is connected, like everything is connected. It's not like you have acne and that's just because you have a clogged floor, like could be because so many different things. So if one thing is going wrong, like it could be from something completely different that you wouldn't expect. So that's the framework I would go into things with. And then I would really tell myself to focus on the gut. Your gut, a lot of people don't realize this, but your digestive tract is like, the average person's digestive tract is 28 feet long. I remember like hearing about my small intestine and being like, okay, it's pretty small, but the reality is your small intestine is massive, and so originally when I started this, I'd look at just my gut, but now I look at the whole 40 feet that is your digestive tract, from your mouth, where your oral microbiome is, to, to the end. That's usually around 40 feet. And these 40 feet are some of the most hidden parts of your body. And the truth is, to really know what's going on in there, you have to be very invasive, and a lot of the tests are very inconclusive. A lot of doctors will admit this, that tests are very inconclusive, and a lot of issues in your gut. If you have bloating, that could be 20 different things. It can be parasites, bacterial overgrowth, fungal overgrowth, heavy metals, like all of these things, food allergies, all of these things can manifest differently. So I try to break it down as simply as possible and keep an open mind, and remember that I am, not a medical professional. But with that said, the medical community has been wrong about so many different things. We were doing lobotomies around, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. So keep that in mind. But to really look at it and be, okay, what could these issues be? And in my limited experience, I've seen a lot of people with parasites being an issue, a lot of people with bacteria overgrowth, specifically small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and a lot of people with fungal overgrowth, candida, mold, in their digestive tract. A lot of these things are very hard to test for, and the tests for it are radically inconclusive. And it's so what people do is they get these tests, they get blood work done, and it comes back normal, and you're like, wow, like I'm healthy. But the best test, and I tell people this, and I got this from the certified health nut. I think his name is Troy Casey. I love the guy. But he does this test that I've really adopted. He's like, look in the mirror. How do you feel? Like, do you feel healthy? Do you look healthy? Because at the end of the day, what is the goal? Is the goal to have perfect blood work and perfect stool test, or is the goal of health to look healthy and feel healthy, and be able to play with your kids and, like be happy, and actually experience like all these, neurotransmitters that your gut makes, and that is the goal. It should not be to have perfect blood work. It should not be to, have a perfect stool test. It should be you look and feel healthy and you are capable of doing the things that you want to do and you're not limited by your body. So, to go back to my point of kind of breaking it down, I've seen a lot of these issues like parasites, bacterial overgrowth, fungal overgrowth, mold poisoning, all of these things affect a lot of people. But is that the root cause? And a lot of times it's not, as we know. And it can be low stomach acid, right? It could be low motility in the gut. And that's not even the root cause. The root cause usually is like, stress, eating processed food. Because if you're very stressed, you have high cortisol, you have low stomach acid, all of a sudden the stomach acid in your stomach is basically the security guard, that lets in and kills, a lot of, bacteria and parasites, all these things. So really, I would tell my younger self to look at everything being connected and to really focus on your gut. Your gut is your second brain. I would call it your first brain, but it really is, your second brain. And a lot of these issues that people deal with, it stems from your gut. Because if your gut you have issues in your gut, it's going to manifest in every other way.
Love it, Rick. It's awesome because I'm looking here and I was trying to like just list out. I'm sorry if I'm looking down. I'm actually just taking notes because I'm learning. So it's like candida, heavy metal, SIBO, fungal, overgrowth, mold, right? These are kind of very commonly occurring issues that can manifest as health conditions, right? So, and I love how you said like, okay, these are the root causes, but then before this, there's even another root cause, which is our processed food and our stress, right? In your opinion, do you think the best course of action is like consistent detoxes, like, or is it just a certain way of living where we're trying to optimize our gut health, if that makes sense?
Exactly. I think it depends where you are in your journey. A lot of people who I see, they are aware of their health because they have these issues, and it might be because the root cause of stomach acid is, what made bacterial overgrowth and parasites and fungal overgrowth go crazy, right? But now if you fix the root cause, you still have these infections that are growing and whatever, and fixing the root cause will help all these things. But a lot of times you have to detox from these things and get rid of it and then fix the root cause or fix it at the same time. And then so your body can live in harmony. I think detoxing should be a way of life. Especially parasites, like we're always exposed to parasites. Parasites have a way of being very opportunistic and taking advantage of their host. So I've been an advocate of people detoxing from parasites, but also I think more importantly, the end goal should be to create an environment in your gut where these things do not thrive, whether it's parasites, whether it's, bacteria overgrowth and that being regulated by good bacteria, or if you have gut dysbiosis, getting that in check where you have good, healthy strains of probiotics, bacteria that want to actually help you. And that is very, very achievable. So to answer your question, I think it almost depends. If you're having these issues, you need to start with a detox. You need to fix the root cause. And so I would recommend people do both.
Love it. And for these people, right? Like for even like our viewers, they might have some of these problems that they don't know what to attribute it to. Could we go over, like, specifically for parasites, what are the most commonly occurring symptoms that you have found that are the case, and that a person can be like, all right, I have this, and this. Most likely, I should get a parasite cleanse.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people do a parasite cleanse every 6 months. We're constantly, we detox our animals, once a year. Every vet will tell you to deworm your animals, but no doctors are telling humans to deworm themselves. And something I brought up, and it went viral. Some of my most viral concepts is talking about how other countries will detox, but America won't. And traditionally we have always done detoxes, and our ancestors have or detox from parasites, and our ancestors have detoxed from parasites for countless years. The Chinese, in Chinese medicine, they would do a wormwood, tea. I believe in the Native Americans would eat pumpkin seed. In Japan, they would consume the neem leaf. Like we have been doing this for centuries because parasites are out there, and if we're, and I think parasites were maybe more of a problem then, but they still are a problem now. So, I'm sorry, wait, where was I going? What was the question?
We were talking. I was talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm back aligned. So, what I've really narrowed in on is parasites, bacterial overgrowth, and fungal overgrowth. In my opinion, these create, majority of gut health issues, and then they eventually get labeled as IBS, which I'll talk about in a second. I think, the symptoms for parasites often overlap with the symptoms of bacterial overgrowth and fungal overgrowth because both of these are an imbalance in your gut. Parasites, some of the most common ones that are not overlapping from bacterial overgrowth or fungal overgrowth, they kind of do. Hair loss is one of them. Parasites, specifically roundworm and pinworm, same ones that can live in your animals, they steal iron from you. And iron is essential to hair growth. So if you are taking obviously hair growth, hair loss can be caused by a variety of different things, but if you're taking an iron supplement, you're doing whatever, you're still losing hair. It could be because you have parasites. Another one that I'm going to preface this with, a lot of things can cause grinding your teeth at night. Parasites are one of them. Parasites are more active at night. They can mess with your central nervous system, causing you to grind your teeth. There are studies on it. It's usually done in children. It's usually done in other countries, but so just take all of that with a grain of salt. Like, a lot of people come at me and like, these studies were done in Iran, 20 years ago, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people who I, have messaged me saying they did a parasite cleanse, they no longer struggle with grinding their teeth. So I agree. The studies, unfortunately, we don't have a study done this year, but, taking a broad spectrum of the population to do this. In my personal experience, there are studies that link it to this, and I have had personal testimony from people saying that they no longer grind their teeth. Insomnia is another thing. Parasites are more active at night. Somehow they're more active under a full moon. I've heard that from multiple people. I believe there's studies on that. I haven't personally looked into it, but I've heard that enough times to be like, somebody's looking at these studies somewhere. So, but there are studies that saying parasites are much more active at night. So if you're dealing with insomnia, your tummy's rumbling at night, that also could be because of parasites. So, teeth grinding, parasites, teeth grinding, insomnia, hair loss, those are a lot of issues that you're commonly seeing with parasites in the intestinal tract. There are parasites that can go into your blood. That's a whole nother story. So that's what I see with parasites. I also want to preface this by saying this is not to scare anybody. The first time I saw parasites come out of me, I was terrified. I was scared. I made everybody I know do it. Now I'm like, I did a parasite cleanse pretty recently. I do it every 6 months. But before then, I was like, oh, I probably have parasites in me. It's no big deal. Like, this is how we have, how our ancestors have lived for years. We have parasites in us. We do a detox. They come out. Like, it's nothing to be afraid of. Although it might sound terrifying, it's totally normal. Some of the more common symptoms with bacterial overgrowth and fungal overgrowth, the differences I see, I'll go through the same process. With bacteria overgrowth, and specifically a bacterial overgrowth in your small intestine, you will have bloating after meals, right? Where fungal overgrowth, you have more consistent bloating, and I'll explain. I know I've heard you talk about the low FODMAP diet, but when you're eating these fermentable carbs, these bacteria can feed on it and they will cause bloating. You will have a lot of bloating if you have bacteria overgrowth or fungal overgrowth. With that said, like a common frustration with people with bacterial overgrowth is they eat healthy and they still feel bad. And like you can eat an apple, you know, and the bacteria are going to ferment that and you're going to have bloating. So usually you have bloating after meals, specifically when you eat these fermentable carbs, all of the foods on the low FODMAP diet. So a key difference between that as well as, also you might have a vitamin B12 deficiency as well, because the bacteria will steal vitamin B12 from you, or just the B vitamins. With fungal overgrowth, what's really common is brain fog. If you have a lot of brain fog, it's usually because you have fungal overgrowth in your small intestine and the fungus is releasing mycotoxins. Mycotoxins can cross the blood-brain barrier, making allowing for you to have brain fog. And a lot of people who do a fungal detox from fungal overgrowth will notice that they no longer have brain fog or have much less brain fog. Another common symptom of fungal overgrowth is you have more consistent bloating rather than bloating specifically after meals. That's because the fungus is constantly keeping your gut inflamed, where the bacteria overgrowth create the gas when after you eat a meal. So with that said, all of these issues can lead to acne. All of them can lead to bloating. All of them can lead to hair loss from nutrient deficiency. They can mess with your metabolism, causing you to gain weight. All of these things are linked to all three of these things. And usually I've talked with a lot of doctors about this. If you have one infection, it usually can lead to, you can get a co-infection of all three of these things. And it's usually because the root cause is something deeper, which could be, low stomach acidity, low motility in the gut, or just these infections making room for more infections to grow.
Man, that's so interesting. So when someone does understand either they have candida, they have maybe heavy metal exposure, fungal overgrowths, bacterial overgrowths, or mold, along with introducing this detox element, are there some things that we should keep in mind in our just daily diet that we should have to regularly optimize for a well-balanced gut?
100%. Yeah. I have been a huge advocate of fermenting your own yogurt. And this is like a hill I will die on. And it was originally came to my attention by Dr. William Davis and his book, Super Gut. I don't know if you've ever read it. I highly recommend everybody read it. But when we say yogurt, you as the viewer might be thinking, oh my gosh, I eat yogurt. So why would I have to ferment my yogurt, And the truth is, when you ferment your own yogurt is the best way to get the most amount of bacteria in the shortest amount of time. And you can ferment your own yogurt for 36 hours. Every 3 hours, the bacteria count will double, right? So let's just break this down. And then on top of that, you can pick the specific strains of bacteria you want to be in your gut. There's super strains of bacteria. And I know that sounds like fancy marketing, but Lactobacillus reuteri is essential to maintaining, it's great for your skin, it's great for your hair, it's great to regulate your gut, and Lactobacillus gastride is just a staple in your gut community. Bifidobacteria longa, all of these are great bacteria that really help support you. And when we take antibiotics, we absolutely ruin our gut microbiome. And antibiotics have saved lives. This is my stance on antibiotics. They have saved lives, but when they are abused, they ruin lives. And you have to be so aware of what they can cause and have a plan to get your gut microbiome back on track. And I absolutely believe yogurt is the best way to do it. But back to my point of these bacteria multiplying. So let's say you start off with 10 billion CFU, right? That's like in one pill of a probiotic. Now I start off with trillions. I'll put so much probiotics in there, but let's just say for the case of this example, you start off with 10 billion CFU of probiotics. In 3 hours, it will be 20 billion. In 6 hours, it'll be 40 billion. In 9 hours, it'll be 80 billion, all the way till, if you go through the 36 hours, I've done the math multiple times, it's 40 trillion, right? So you get 40 trillion probiotics when you originally started with 10. And when most store-bought yogurt is fermented 4 hours, if it's even good, even if it's fermented really at all. So the amount of probiotics you are getting from fermenting your own yogurt, and I don't even want to call it yogurt at this point because people think they can just buy store-bought yogurt. But when you are making this, this amazing beneficial bacteria, all of these bacteria are little workers that live in your gut that help regulate and bring, help you operate at your best. So I highly recommend everybody ferment their own yogurt. Read Dr. William Davis's book, Super Gut. And this is one of the best ways to, after you do a detox and you get rid of these, this bacteria and these fungus and these parasites, the best way to bring back balance to your gut microbiome is to ferment your own yogurt. I tell people, I'm like, look, like I have my company's detoxes. I've, poured my heart and soul and way too much money, into all of these things to provide this value to people. But if you had to pick one between doing a detox and fermenting your own yogurt, I tell people to ferment their own yogurt, because even people who don't do a detox have noticed benefits from just putting in trillions of good bacteria in their microbiome.
This might be a silly question, but like, how is it like a step-by-step? How do we ferment our own yogurt?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So, first of all, I did a video on this. If you go to my profile on Instagram or TikTok, it's trap.health, and I pinned the video, and I explained how to do this. But what you want to do is you need three things. You need bacteria, and then you need prebiotics, which is what the bacteria are going to eat. And then you need the catalyst for them to grow, which is half and half or any type of milk. Dairy is the best catalyst for bacteria to grow. I've heard people do it with coconut milk or other catalysts, but hands down, milk is the best way to do that. If you're lactose intolerant, and usually that could be, that can be from bacteria or from bacterial overgrowth or fungal overgrowth in the beginning. So I understand that it's hard, but eventually you can get rid of these food intolerances if you really take care of your gut microbiome, because you didn't always have them. Not a lot of people are born like this. And if they were born like that, it could be because they have these imbalances to begin with. Anyways, so you start with, I use an Instant Pot. There's a yogurt setting on there, and it usually keeps temperature between like 95 to 100, which is usually around your internal body temperature. And these bacteria will proliferate at this temperature with this catalyst, with the food, and with the bacteria. So you put the bacteria in there, you put 10 billion, 20 billion, however many bacteria you want, and you really don't have to be specific. I put a couple scoops of prebiotic fiber. Inulin is a great one. And then I will put like a quart or a half gallon of half and half in there. And that usually makes good yogurt. If you're on Instagram, you go to Trav Health, you can comment, leave yogurt on the bottom of the video, and I'll send you all the stuff I get on Amazon. I have no affiliation. I make no money off of helping, you guys get this. I always stay true to my creed is I want people to be as healthy as possible, whether it benefits me or not. And obviously, I believe this is one of the best ways to be as healthy as possible.
Solid, man. 100%. Yeah, we're definitely, and I'm going to put all your information, Travis, in the description, because it's like, it's golden information, right? Along with fermenting foods, is there something you do to make sure you're optimizing for your body's mineral profile? Like whether it's electrolytes, because I remember before the call, we were even mentioning hydration. In my house, the hydration is reverse osmosis, and I know that strips all the minerals away. What do you do to make sure, one, we're hydrated, and two, we're optimizing our mineral profile?
Yeah, 100%. You're probably more of an expert on this than I am. I think yeah, honestly, my thoughts on this, my very primal thoughts are we are 70% water, 80% water. A lot of our body is water. So you might as well be drinking good water. And I recommend everybody buy a good water filtration system. I use the AquaTrue. What do you use?
I think I just bought it off Costco, to be honest. I bought the first one. I don't know 100% which one it is. I can just check for you.
Reverse osmosis, what I've heard is great. Again, I'm not an expert on this. I just think buy a good water filter, drink good water, and a lot of these water filters, like you alluded to, will strip a lot of the mineral profile from these, from the water. So it's important to put water back into it. I forget what minerals I take, but sometimes I have a little dropper and I just put some back in there. Yeah, I think it depends where you live. I used to live in Arizona when I went to college. And the water there was horrible, dude. Like whenever I go back there, a lot of my friends just have like Britas or some sort of, you know, water filtration system that's probably putting more mold in your water than it was before. And I get headaches like right away. And I'll go to Sprouts and buy a lot of bottled water, preferably from glass, because, you know, microplastics, you know, are a real thing, especially if that, you know, it's in a water bottle that's heated up. You're just, you know, you're drinking microplastics, and it's a lot. But I highly recommend everybody get a water filter, put some minerals back in there. I think that's a great place to start.
100%. Yeah, I just saw it. It's water drop. The RO system that we use is very simple. But yeah, like to your point, one thing that I've been doing is I know this, and I'm not affiliated in any way, but there's one called like Trace, and there's like great
Yep.
health.
I use Trace.
Yeah, you use Trace, don't you? Yeah, so there's some great electrolytes out there that that I'm slowly starting to research, because even myself, I'm trying to become more like, you know, you, like getting healthier, getting fitter, more out there, and I sweat a lot. And so one thing is like I make sure that I'm staying hydrated, and also this idea of microplastics that you mentioned. I think if correct me if I'm wrong, I do remember you even had like something about detoxing from that as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what's fascinating about the microplastics is it's extremely hard to detox from them. And I'm not an expert in microplastics, but there have been some studies very recently that link if you link taking probiotics to being able to remove microplastics from your gut. So and then I'm just like, yep, I take a ton of probiotics. So I feel like if that's true and those studies are correct, I feel like I'm in the department. But it is a balance. I think the best way to detox from microplastics is to avoid them as much as you can. And according to that study, have a lot of probiotics. Take a lot of probiotics.
Yeah, man. I mean, you got a tub of homemade yogurt. What else do you need?
Yeah.
All you need, man. Dude, I'm gonna try that today. I'm gonna try to make one. I'm gonna let you know, because that sounds super interesting. I even yeah, like sorry, I was saying I even have like two nephews, and I'm trying to teach them how to be more gut healthy. And so we're even like I'm slowly introducing them to kefir and Travis. They're one of the people who they are such sweet tooths. So for me to even give them something remotely healthy, I was like, it's strawberry flavored, right? Have the kefir. So slowly I'm starting to, you know, imbibe that in our family as well.
That's great, man. Yeah, get them started young.
100%, 100%. As a person, like as you did, right? You made sure that like the second you learned about parasite cleanses, you immediately, you were like, all your friends and your family, you're like, all right, guys, you got to get the parasite cleanse. You got to do these things. If someone is like me, who's trying to improve the health of their family, what are some things that you would say 100% start doing, along with, of course, making yogurt from home, that could help, you know, altogether create a healthy gut for each of your loved ones?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are things that you can do that will pull the most weight. I think fermenting your own yogurt will, but we'll start with the lowest hanging fruit. Things that are easy to do, you know, you can do today. I recommend everybody, and this is something I want to talk about a little more, is start with their oral microbiome. This is something that has been completely slept on, and how much, you know, gingivitis and having bad bacteria and cavities and all these things in your mouth can leak into your brain and cross the blood-brain barrier. Alzheimer's. I always say it wrong. I called it Alzheimer's for the longest time, and I say it wrong every time. But Alzheimer's, that like the same bacteria in gingivitis have been found in the brains of people who had these neurodegenerative diseases. You know, and if you really think about it, if your oral microbiome is the second largest microbiome community in your body, and a lot of people just take mouthwash and they kill everything in there. You need these beneficial bacteria in there. So I would start with dealing with that. If you don't floss and you have rotting food in between your teeth for days, the rotting food is, you know, leaking toxins through your gums. If you've ever put a Zen in and you feel that nicotine high like right away, it's because your gums go straight to your bloodstream. A lot of people have toxins sitting in there between their teeth, rotting, allowing bacteria to get into their bloodstream and affecting their brain and the rest of their body. So I recommend everybody start there. don't do mouthwash, guys, please. It's basically like taking antibiotics every single morning, every single time you take it. There's so much better ways to do it. I've been, as somebody who had gingivitis, I've had to solve these things myself because the dentist just said I was brushing my teeth too hard, and they're like, "Oh, this is normal. Your gums bleed. It's completely normal. Like it happens." And I wasn't satisfied with that answer. So here's a few things you can do to start that. One, brush your teeth. If you're not brushing your teeth, you have bigger issues. So,
Yeah, right. That's discipline issues right there, bro.
yeah, exactly. Let's just start there. Just brush your teeth. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, I'm a big fan of using fluoride-free toothpaste, and I could talk about fluoride later. I'm sure I might lose half the people there if like, oh, he doesn't believe in fluoride. But anyways, yeah, just start with I follow this guy, and I've reached out to them, and I've had conversations with them, and I have no monetary affiliation from them, but I started the reach out because I was using their products. This dentist, Dr. Sean, or Dr. Sorry, not the UFC fighter, Sean O'Malley, Dr. Paul O'Malley.
yeah.
He is really big. He's a holistic dentist, and he was really big on creating a good oral microbiome. And he has this system I bought where it's like toothpaste, and it has the what is it, hydroapatite, whatever. But it has the right amount of that in there, and a lot of these brands don't have enough of that in there. They just have a little bit to be able to say that they have hydroapatite in it, and I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry, guys. But pronunciation has never been my strong suit, which it probably should be in this industry. But with that said, they also have like this essential oil that you like can brush your teeth with, and it can kill a lot of the bad bacteria. They told me that they've put plaque that people see that, it's buildup of bacteria that can cause cavities. They put it under a microscope, and they put this little essential oil dropper on it, and those bacteria have died, and it's killed them. And and then they also have oral probiotics, that has been a game changer. If you wake up with bad breath, that is because you have, bad bacteria in your mouth. Poop. The reason poop stinks is because the gases the bacteria, leak. So anyways, it's really fascinating that a lot of these smells and things they come from bacteria. But after I'd have coffee or I'd wake up in the morning and be like, I need to brush my teeth, like any normal person would. And obviously I still do that. But taking these oral probiotics that Dr. Paul O'Malley has created really helps my mouth. And I felt less brain fog because of that. I felt a little more energy, and there's a lot of good research starting to come out about the link between your oral health to the rest of your body. So that's the lowest hanging fruit. I would go by that system. It's Great Oral Care, and they're I think it's what it's called. They're like one of the number one ranked on Amazon. But I really believe in his products, and again, no monetary affiliation there. And so that's what I'd start with, especially like your nephews and stuff like that. I'd be like, hey, like brush your teeth. Take these little oral probiotics, just the little lodgesins that like are in your mouth, because that what is in your mouth is what links to the rest of your body. It goes into like the average person gulps like 1,000 to 1,500 times a day, and every time you gulp, you're gulping that bacteria in your mouth. So you might as well get that in check. That's the first thing I would do, and also it prevents a lot of neurodegenerative diseases. A lot of cardiovascular diseases can be linked to the bacteria in your mouth. So I would get that in check first. It's a very easy thing to do. Just, have you oil pull, brush your teeth, take oral probiotics. You'll be in a great spot. The next thing I would do that's low hanging fruit is get your stomach acid up. Your stomach acid is a security guard that prevents a lot of these bad, pathogens from making their way into your gut. Apple cider vinegar in the morning is a great place to start. Just a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of that in your water. That can help bring up stomach acidity and kind of, beef up your security guard, preventing all these pathogens, parasites, bacterial, fungal overgrowth to make it into your gut. It'll neutralize a lot of them. So that's another quick place I'd start. I'd do that every morning. And then I would evaluate, like, where are you, like, in your digestive health? Like, are you dealing with a lot of bloating and fatigue and brain fog, hair loss and skin issues and acne? Are you dealing with a lot of that, or are you not? Because if you're not dealing with that, then maybe you don't need to detox. You don't have these pathogens in your gut. If you need to detox, I highly recommend you try to narrow down what infection you have, and you can do tests for this. You can do stool tests. The truth is, a lot of doctors will admit this, and a lot of the ones I talk to is there aren't great tests for it. And if you bring this up to your doctor and you say, hey, like, I think I have parasites, a lot of them will just laugh at you, and so I absolutely recommend that everybody do a detox. A parasite detox is a great place to start, because a parasite detox will kill a lot of the parasites. It'll also kill, some of the bacterial overgrowth as well as the fungal overgrowth as well. So it's kind of like a broad spectrum. I'd start there, take a binder. I obviously have it right here, but this is our detox here. It's by Luna Labs. And we have, the thing with detoxing is you have to do it right, and a lot of people, they overcomplicate it, but we try to make it as simple as possible. And we have these little daily packs here. So I'm on day 14. But we have a loading phase in there where you'll start with 1 pill on day 1. On day 2, you'll do 2 pills. You're taking 2 pills of a binder throughout the whole process. And it's a 30-day detox. And you never have to think about the dosing. You just rip off these daily packs. You take exactly what you're supposed to take every single day. All the ingredients, they're wormwood, black walnut, whatever. If you want to get those individually on Amazon, go for it. If you want to have 14 different ingredients that kill all the different parasites all bundled up for you and you don't have to think about it, we have our detox here. Whatever you do a detox. I tell people, and I get a lot of flack from this, from our competitors or, other people in the industry. They sell a lot of tinctures, If you're having the tinctures, these herbs are so potent and so bitter that if you're able to palate a tincture, it's probably not potent enough. I've known people who have taken tinctures and been like, oh, I don't have parasites. And then they do our detox and they visibly pass parasites. So it's a lot of pills, but it works. So I highly recommend starting with that. If you feel like you have parasites, it'll also get rid of some bacteria and fungal overgrowth as well. The binder is great. Some of these herbs can chelate heavy metals, and the binder will help extract that. Everything you need is in there. You don't really have to think about it. And then I would be aware of bacterial overgrowth and fungal overgrowth. And I'd also ask yourself, like, when was the last time you took antibiotics? Because antibiotics can really disrupt your gut microbiome with the balance in there. A lot of people will take antibiotics, they'll kill a lot of bacteria, but the antibiotics don't kill the fungus. And when the bacteria is gone, the fungus will grow. And so a lot of people will get fungal overgrowth because of taking antibiotics. So you might need to detox from the fungal overgrowth. And then antibiotics can also cause bacteria overgrowth in the long run. It's kind of counterintuitive because you're like, oh, bacteria, like antibiotics kill bacteria, so why would you get bacteria overgrowth? But it kills a lot of the bacteria. It doesn't kill all of it. And usually the bad you kill the good bacteria, you kill the bad bacteria. But what's common is a lot of that bad bacteria will overgrow and it'll creep up from your large intestine where, a majority of your bacteria needs to be, and it'll creep up into the small intestine and causing food to ferment early. So we have a detox from that as well. This is our overgrowth detox, and it's a little bigger than the other one, but it's the daily packs as well. And you take 2 every single day. So you start like day 1, and then you have your AM and PM over there. And it's all different. It has a lot of probiotics in it. It has a lot of fiber. It has a lot of berberine, ginger root. All of the same, like ginger root will stimulate motility in the gut. The berberine will kill a lot of the bacteria and fungal overgrowth as well. And the PM pack in there is a lot of probiotics, a lot of glutamine stuff to repair your gut lining. And it's really fascinating. When I was creating this, like, we originally had it in bottles, right? And we were only limited to one type of pill or a proprietary blend. But I didn't want to be limited to just doing that in one bottle. And when we moved to these daily packs, they don't look as great as the bottles do, but we're not limited to just picking one thing or one proprietary blend. We can be, nothing's limiting us. We can be like, oh, we need zinc, we need berberine, we need glutamine. Like, all of these pills are in there. It's everything that we need to tackle this. And that's what a lot of companies don't want to admit, is that you need a lot of different ingredients. But I want to tell you, oh, it's just this one, or it's just this one proprietary blend. But in reality, you need a lot of these different things to kill it. So in designing it, I got to talk with a lot of these doctors and a lot of these gut health experts, and they're like, okay, we need, ginger root to stimulate motility. We need glutamine to help repair the gut lining. We need berberine to help remove and kill the bacteria overgrowth. And we're able to do all of it in these designs, in the daily pack. So I would recommend doing that, but if you have a lot of those issues, you're dealing with digestive issues, you absolutely need to detox. And then the other thing I recommend is just a regular part of your life, whether you feel amazing or whether you're dealing with a lot of these issues, is ferment your own yogurt. It's the best way to get as much probiotics in your system as soon as possible in the shortest amount of time, especially if you've just taken antibiotics. Taking yogurt, fermenting your own yogurt, not store-bought yogurt, fermenting your own yogurt, best way to get as much probiotics in a short amount of time. Lactobacillus reuteri is the strand I would start with, and then I go back and forth between Lactobacillus reuteri, do Lactobacillus gastride, and then I'll take a not proprietary blend, but I'll take a starter with 5 different probiotics too, which Bifidobacterium's in there, Bifidobacteria longum's in there, the gastride's in there, reuteri. There's a lot of great probiotics in that. So yeah, to recap, so that's very long-winded, but I'd start with your mouth, get that in check, get your stomach acid up. Another thing is I would also recommend getting the motility in your gut. Intermittent fasting is great. A lot of people see a lot of benefits from intermittent fasting because that helps stimulate motility in the gut. If you're constantly eating and you have these bacterial overgrowth and fungal overgrowth, that food's just going to be fermenting in there, and it's going to cause a lot of issues. And a lot of people start, intermittent fasting, and they notice that those symptoms start to go down. It's because you're actually giving your digestive tract a chance to clean out. So that's what I'd recommend. And then the last thing, as I go through this, I think of it is fasting. I've been a huge fan of fasting for a long time now. It started off with religious reasons. I grew up, very Christian, still am, and I will with fasting. Every major religion has practiced it for thousands of years, and I started off originally doing it for religious reasons, but now I feel like I do it for health reasons. There's a lot of benefits. Jesus did a 40-day fast. I believe Esther did a 3-day dry fast. I've dry fasted as well. And it's really great to give your body a chance to remove all of the, the stuff in our digestive tract. And autophagy goes up, growth hormone goes up. A lot of people will experience hair growth again. Their acne will go away. It's really profound, the benefits, both physically and spiritually. So yeah, that's you have your list. Thank
you, brother. That was awesome, dude. I learned so. Thank you so much, Travis. I really appreciate you, man. Everything you're doing, especially with Luna Labs. I think you guys are killing it. It's super inspiring. Again, seeing how you're changing lives with all the struggles that you had, working with the experts, formulating amazing tonics, gut tonics for us. And it means the world, man. And again, I'm going to include all Travis's information down in the description. Travis, thank you so much again for all your time, brother.
You're welcome. Anytime. So.
Thank you, man.